And welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Monday, 18th day of February edition of the Story Behind the Story. Hope you had a great weekend. I wish I could say that I had a great weekend, but I had a good weekend. It was very, very much a weekend of reporting and researching and yes, trying to defend against attacks. And they just keep on a-coming. It just is amazing. Just flat out is amazing. I need to go on the record today and tell my own personal story behind the story, to be, again, on record, just in case certain things may happen. We'll talk about that later on. But there's some breaking stories that I just want to put out there. I have no inside intelligence to report other than just the factual pictures as they come in. The date line actually was the 8th of February. This is when this report came out by a gentleman by the name of Dave Masco. I posted this on my blog just this morning, just atrueout.com. To the headline basically saying more strange metal boxes appearing along coastal beaches. Some people say they are tied to UFO sightings, strange lights, the evening before their appearance on the 8th. But something strange about them. Here's the story. Let me just quote it in its entirety. Grays Point, Oregon. They can't be moved even when yanked by a four-wheel drive truck, pulling them with heavy chains tied around these humming metal boxes that are still appearing as of February 8th up and down America's West Coast beaches. Yeah, they are humming, folks. Something is emitting from these boxes. Quote, as of late afternoon, February of 8th, Bill Hanschumacher, a public marine specialist, marine as in ocean marine, right? Not U.S. Marine Corps, the public marine specialist and PhD doctor of marine science at the Hatfield Marine Science Center in nearby Newport, told us in an interview that, quote, I just don't know what they are. In turn, Dr. Hanschumacher said he's advised, quote, surf monitoring about these strange metal boxes that just suddenly appeared along local beaches starting February 6th and now seem to be multiplying like Star Trek tribbles. The photograph that accompanies this report, taken during the afternoon of February 8th near Grays Point, of yet another strange metal box stuck in surf sand, is one of a possible group of a dozen or more that have been sighted up and down West Coast beaches. Meanwhile, we found that the British government also photographed similar huge metal boxes on beaches in Sri Lanka in the late 1990s and again in early 2004 and 2005. The discovery of these boxes is detailed in updated previously classified reports from the British government that document sightings of unidentified flying objects by both the military and the general public dating back to the 1950s. Thus, within these British government UFO files available via the Internet, are the Sri Lanka beach boxes that are similar in both size, coloring, and shape, with locals all along Sri Lanka's beaches located in the blue waters of the Indian Ocean and the Bay of Bengal, stating in the recently released British UFO documents that, quote, the strange metal boxes appeared suddenly and after numerous reported UFO sightings, end quote. In turn, the metal boxes along Oregon, Washington State, and Northern California beaches are now being photographed, documented, and examined by local experts. Also, due to recent storms out in the Pacific Ocean, the boxes are being more or less ignored, with only passing comments in local coastal newspapers, state Arrow, a Brays Point, Oregon local and a member of the Oregon UFO Watchers Group that gathers both here and at a nearby Stonefield beach to scan the sky for flying objects in much the same way bird lovers use binoculars for bird watching. Errol notes that it's always a sort of communication breakdown that always seems to go to the same way, be it a UFO sighting or even something like, quote, these humming metal boxes. However, Errol said it's a good thing, quote, when something like this becomes interesting to the Oregon State University research agenda. For instance, Dr. Hand Shoemaker works for this OSU research enterprise at the nearby Hatfield Marine Science Center in Newport, Oregon. Whenever there's some strange dead sea life, such as a beach whale or some other something along the lines of massive dead seabirds, the experts at the Hatfield are called in to investigate. When asked if he's ever heard of anything like these huge metal boxes with no opening or seam, get that, folks? No opening or seam, Dr. Shoemaker would not specifically comment or speculate on the record. Instead, this marine science expert has photoed the box for size and coloring details. In turn, Dr. Hand Shoemaker would not speculate about various rumors regarding the boxes, but said indeed that an alert has gone out and the boxes are being investigated. Of course, Hulik, the newspaper, will continue to monitor this breaking story that has local coastal residents and visitors scratching their heads about the boxes. An hour's drive from Corvallis, Oregon, the Hatfield Marine Science Center in Newport is Oregon State University's coastal campus for research and investigation of marine, biological, and geochemical aspects, measuring tidal, estuarine, and nearshore ocean environments. According to its fact sheet, quote, research programs at HMSC advance scientific understanding of marine and coastal ecosystems with an emphasis on collaboration across disciplinary and institutional affiliations of the more than 300 personnel on site. They had quite a few employees, 300 of them. So, in a nutshell, what this is saying that the research funding given this Hatfield facilities, roughly $261 million. The Hatfield Marine Science Center is home base for the Coastal Oregon Marine Experiment Station, the Cooperative Institute for Marine Resources Studies, CIMRS, and the Marine Mammal Institute, along with various other OSU and state federal agency units. Yeah, NOAA, NOAA, Ocean Environment Research Division, NOAA Fisheries, the US EPA, etc., etc. Now, quote, according to now declassified, once top secret UFO reports that were under lock and key by the British government since the end of World War II, there's good reason to keep the public in the dark when it comes to such things as UFO sightings, strange occurrences, first contacts with aliens, and more in detailed reports that point to senior British Ministry of Defense officials stating to the Prime Minister in now declassified memos that, quote, if we said to you, sir, that we have reason to believe the UFOs are real, then what would the British people think of us? Okay. Yet, the information on these Sri Lanka boxes are still marked classified. What's going on, folks? What is going on? Well, I go back to Jonathan Gray's insight, Mr. Gray's book, The Forbidden Secret, and I have to, again, concur with his ideas, and simply found in part 4 of his book, page 211, is simply called Planet Hijacked. And he talks about who are the aliens. Let me just share with you once again what Jonathan Gray has to say about this and see how this may or may not connect. Quote, for over 20 years, J. Allen Hynek, Hynek, was a scientific consultant for the U.S. Air Force on Project Blue Book. His instructions were to study UFO reports and determine whether an astronomical object such as the moon or the planet Venus might explain them. Project Blue Book listed 12,618 reports, of which 701 of 12,600 could not be explained. So Blue Book listed these 12,618 reports and concluded that simply in the report, UFOs did not pose a threat to national security. Now, keep in mind they did this without saying what they were. Yet the government just said this official report to get itself off the hook. The later so-called Condon report announced the same conclusion. Quote, although a UFO skeptic at the start, Hynek became convinced that a certain percentage of claimed sightings were indeed worthy of serious study. So in 1973, he founded the Center for UFO Studies, CUFOS, along with the now noted UFO researcher Jacques Vallée. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I personally met Jacques Vallée last fall out in the northern Utah valley of the Uinta Valley. And I'm telling you, we had a very, very interesting discussion. It's a pleasure meeting this French researcher, Jacques Vallée. Okay, Hynek and Jacques Vallée considered that there was indeed, where there was smoke, there was fire. In 1976, they made this observation, quote, conclusion come to after all these years is that, first of all, the subject is much more complex than any of us ever imagined. It has paranormal aspects, but certainly it has very real physical aspects too. The attitude we're taking in the Center for UFO Studies is that since we're going to have scientists involved, we will push the physical approach as hard and as far as we can via instrumentation, physical evidence, photographs, radar records. If we are finally forced by the evidence itself to go into the paranormal, then we will. Now, talking to Jacques Vallée this last October, he said, without a doubt, Dr. Ott, these UFOs, in my opinion, are interdimensional paranormal entities. What does that mean, folks? What does it mean to have paranormal interdimensional entities? Folks, in the fourth dimension, space and time, there are individuals and entities there who are very deceiving, very evil-minded, because, again, the very definition of evil is separation of God, separation from or lack of God's presence. If God is love and God is the epitome of goodness, then the opposite is evil. That's the measurement of the lack of God in space. It's the veritable valley of death, the valley of the shadow of death that the psalmist David referred to. It's exactly what everybody has to pass through to get to paradise. It is the realm of a certain fallen angel named Lucifer, a.k.a. Satan, a.k.a. Mammon. When interviewed by Newsweek magazine, Jacques Vallée said, quote, UFOs may well be psychic phenomena, and these so-called aliens may well not come from outer space, but from a parallel reality. Parallel reality. Hynek also said in another interview, quote, UFOs were part of a parallel reality slipping in and out of sequence with our own. This was a hypothesis that obviously pained him as an empirical scientist, yet after 30 years of interviewing witnesses and investigating sighting reports, radar contacts, and physical traces of saucer landings, no other hypothesis seems to make sense to him. The findings of numerous other researchers tend to support this conclusion. Prominent UFO researcher John Weldon has noted that in all the millions of sightings, there has never been even one radar detection of a UFO entering our atmosphere from outer space. Now, keep in mind, when they are in our space, they are picked up, the radar blips, but they do not appear coming in from outer space. Now, some people argue that it's because they have these cloaking devices, and when their cloaking devices are not used and when they're seen, then they become visible and then they pick up on radar. That's a possibility. But here's something else. Number two, these so-called ETs appear quite able to breathe in Earth's atmosphere without a respiratory equipment. So really, how alien are they? Number three, although fired upon many times by Russian, Canadian, and American pilots, never once has a UFO been brought down by the fire. The Will Smith movie, The 4th of July, notwithstanding. And four, startlingly, no UFOs seen at different times ever look exactly alike. So these observations would suggest that, one, they are here, emanating apparently from our own planet Earth, and two, although visible, they may not be physical entities. They appear to be not bound by the same material, physical laws. Now, the reason why, again, I'm prefacing this because here are these boxes appear. Now, obviously, these are dimensional now. I mean, they have mass and they're occupying space in this dimension, but why aren't they opened up? What's really inside of them? See, where's the origins of these? What's the material made of? Where do these come from? Somebody needs to investigate this and tell the story, I would submit. And I mean right now. Are they emitting radio frequencies and audible frequencies? Is humming? What's the specific harmonic of them? A lot of questions come to my mind with these boxes. I'll tell you why. On Saturday afternoon, I spent a good 3 hours personally meeting with a gentleman who requests to be anonymous, but he gave me his credentials and his name and his background and more than enough information to verify he's 100% real and absolutely earnest. Had the most incredible story to tell me that as a young, really amazingly gung-ho young man from Idaho, he was recruited into the Special Forces, the Ranger Special Forces units, the Airborne Rangers, and there passed enough tests to be eventually put into the what is best described as the A-team, the elite team. He was a young man, just about 19 years old. What he was being trained for and what he accomplished is an amazing, amazing story. He was trained a sniper, again, part of an elite task force, a strike force that indeed took out the deep underground military base located in Dulce, New Mexico. Now, many people, many Americans have blissfully gone on their way in life without really understanding what happened in the 1970s and 1976. The attack against Dulce, New Mexico, a deep underground military base. Yes, according to my eyewitness count, he was part of a firefight with, yes, folks, interdimensional aliens. When I shared with him what pages of the Forbidden Secret absolutely confirmed, he says, we did not use bullets. We did not use 50 caliber machine guns. We used special disintegration vibratory rays to put them into limbo. We were taught how to use these guns, these special operative guns. They said there wouldn't be blood, there wouldn't be flesh and bone involved. They would just shriek and dissolve, and they basically go into who knows what dimension of nothingness. I've invited this gentleman to be a guest on my show. He couldn't be on today. We will set a time. We will tell you when this interview will be. It hopefully will be within the next few days. He only agreed to come on the show if he came on with an assumed name. He didn't want to give his name out. He doesn't. Of course, this story is flat out phenomenal. It checks out. I interviewed on the story behind the story when we were live on the radio, in KSUB radio. I interviewed Mr. Stuart Swerdlow, golly, many years ago, a decade ago at least. He told me his same first-hand account of the assault on Dulce, New Mexico, the deep underground military base. Well, we've got a comment online. We've got a caller from, it's like the great state of Michigan on the line. We have William. Hey, William, how are you doing today?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, fantastic. How's it up there in Michigan?
It's a little bit cold up here. We got a little bit of snow over the weekend, Friday, but I was just kind of interested in getting in on your topics of aliens, and it's just, how people go over and all of the evidence that they have, and isn't it amazing to all throughout time, even Washington sailing across America, everybody's had sightings of these things. Isn't that just amazing? And what is more amazing to me, these aren't unidentified objects. These are definitely identified. These are demonic type experiences that people are experiencing, and they just can't put it together. They can't put their thumb on it, and the reason they can't is because they don't ever let a divine foot in the door to explain things. Have you ever noticed that?
Oh yeah, you're right on.
And, you can study all the alien abductions and this and that. And isn't it amazing? And if you study the alien abduction, I get into a lot of, I just love humans and how, just the influences we have in our societies today. And it's just overwhelming, the type of influences you have. And another one's UFOs. They're not unidentified objects. They are identified. They are demonic. People can't put this together. There's a reason you're not going to see them coming in. They're already here. They've been here before we were here. Indeed. People just can't put it together. It's pretty simple. I mean, you have an undereducated society today in America. This is for sure. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, you go try to find a true Bible teaching church. I can't find one.
Well, you have to kind of.
No, I'm serious. I can't. I mean, I'm very well versed in that.
I know.
But I'm very well versed in politics as well. I mean, we're indoctrinated to vote for crooks and thieves and liars in this country. How smart can we be?
Well, we're just.
We're talking about UFOs.
Point, William, that we don't even understand what the voting process is all focusing on. We have to take a break, William. If you want to stay on the line, and we'll come back after these messages. This is the story behind the story. I'm your host, Dr. A. Truott, and we'll be right back after these messages. Don't go away now. The world is strange. The oceans are strange. There's some very interesting myths. Again, they're not really myths. They're remnants of prior knowledge that seem to crop up every once in a while. It seems like these boxes may just well be that. I don't know if we still have a caller on the line. William, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still with you.
Okay, let me just postulate something here for you, and I want to see what your comment is on it. We have in the history books the story of a person called Pandora. Pandora, the history of Pan. Now, Pan is a name basically tied in again to the horned god, devil, if you will, the fallen angel.
Isn't that the book that Aleister Crowley's grandson wrote, Pan? The book that was banned from all the schools?
Exactly. So we have Pandora, and we have the story of Pandora's box. Now, what's the Pandora's boxes, or in this case, boxes? The box contains some very powerful evil that the humans aren't supposed to open up. Let me go back to this report again, coming out of Brays Point, Oregon. Quote. The story says, these boxes are simply not movable. They've tried to pull them up for investigation. They're just like they're weighted with incredibly dense, whatever. They can't move them with their pickup trucks. They've tried to put chains on them and drag them. They just won't move. He said they are solid and metallic, seem to have, whenever they're moved or jostled, quote, seem to have this keening, it's called keening with a K, keening wail. coming from the boxes themselves and the atmosphere around them. And
well,
it seems
there's so many demonic things out there to do. I mean, just Pandora's box is just an example of. There's more demonic things going on, and it's just amazing when you get into the study of just human beings in general, the influences we have. That's just another influence, how we influence our society in the way and alter people's thinking. And this is just another way to alter people's thinking when you get into these witchcraft and Ouija book, Pandora's box. There's just so many evil things out there of this nature. There's more than just that. It's just amazing. UFOs is another thing that alters people's minds. Education alters people's minds. What they're educating in school today is ridiculous. It's just amazing how the influences that we have. The human condition is amazing how you're raised, and depends what area you're raised in. America's just an amazing place to live in because you can see all the varieties of cultures and what people believe, and just it's an amazing deception is what it is. So when we get back to reality, the reality is we are here in the now. There's so many things we can't explain around this world. Isn't that amazing? We can't explain them. I mean, have you ever wondered, just like Pandora's box, why can't they move them?
Yeah, I hope that they don't be trying to open this up with a can opener or explosions or whatever. This could be really, really quite strange. Here's the eyewitness.
It's just amazing when you just feel the airways with just all the topics that are going on today, and a lot of this you can explain real easily. The society has flip-flopped and alternated their ways of thinking with science. You got the battle of science versus God, and it's just an amazing study when you just start studying all these aliens and evolution and the God theory and just so many different theories out there and evil. There's evil that exists in this world today. Can we agree on this?
Well, surely.
Is that something we can agree on?
I hope so.
Well, I would hope so. I mean, I don't know what your viewpoint is, but I've always been one to just to stay out of. I've always liked reading the literature. Even the Bible is one of the greatest books it is the greatest book ever written, and the reason I get to that is because the majority can't explain it. Isn't that weird how they can't explain a book that's really simply written?
It's simple.
Written,
well,
and they don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, there are people.
I can explain a lot of these demonic things, Pandora's box, through that book. A lot of people don't want to let that foot in the door, but wow, isn't it amazing how it explains all of our faults and all these weird things that are going to come about?
It does. Let me get into that, William. Let me go on with the show. I've got a lot more to cover. I appreciate your comments. Stay on the air, or stay listening to us. We need to have you get off the air, but post your comments on my blog if you would.
What I'd like you to do when you're pointing out Pandora's box, you should point out the evil that exists in this world, and is not something that people are taking this very, very lightly. There's more evil in the world than good. That's for sure.
Yeah, let me discuss it. Let me go on because I've got a lot of information I got to cover in the next hour and a half. Okay, thanks, William. Thanks for calling in, my friend. Okay,
all right, buddy, you too.
Yeah. He's right on, ladies and gentlemen. There is a lot of evil. Again, the definition of evil is just simply like the definition of cold. You know what cold is. Everybody knows what evil is versus goodness. And cold is just basically the best way to describe it is an absence of heat. And there's different degrees of coldness. You can get down below zero, and it's really cold because there's a lot less heat. But there's always some heat till you get to 460 degrees minus Fahrenheit. And that is when science has proven there is the complete absence of heat at that point. There's nothing moves. Without heat, nothing moves in this universe. So negative 460 degrees is absolute zero. Well, what is absolute evil then? Is the absolute evil is the absence of God in every possible way. Okay, is there a place of ultimate evil? I say there is. It's a dimensional area, a multiverse. Okay, it's a place created again by these individuals that like nothing more, than want nothing more to come and poke a hole in this dimension and really mess with the human brain and the human mind. It has been going on, just like William said, if you really understand the Bible. It's been going on since the days of the first man, Adam, his created wife, Eve. The story of Cain tells us completely how Cain became seduced by this evil influence to kill his brother Abel for gain and then lie about it and seek to cover it up. It's been with us all the time, folks, and that is the definition of evil, the lack of God's love and light in our lives, period. That's the best definition. When I asked my friend Saturday, who told me the story of Dulce, New Mexico, and I asked him why he now was coming forward 30, almost 40 years past. He said, well, it's the time where I got to, I understand now the connections between the evil and the government and the evil I witnessed and saw firsthand as a young man in the Special Ranger Battalion. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the story will be told in its entirety by a first-hand witness. We'll have him tell you what name he's going by now, et cetera, and let you make your own decisions on this. But make no mistake, strange things are afoot more than ever before. And, people need to be alert and awake. They need to be, again, get a basic understanding of truth, of true history, and the importance of the Bible. The Bible is just not some mythical story collection of hodgepodge. No. Everything about it is factual and relevant in a major way in your life. The Old Testament, the stories of destruction, the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, there's so much more behind that story. It's not just the sodomy issue. We have to understand that you hear the term sodomite or sodomy. It comes from the term of Sodom and Gomorrah. That it was much, much deeper than that, than just abnormal sexual relations. The extra biblical resources tell us more about what was going on in Gomorrah and Sodom. And they were talking about, again, these entities from the other sides. Call them aliens, call them UFOs. It don't matter. They are demonic entities. They are from another dimension. They were busy. The reality of the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, their location was below sea level. Again, that's important to understand. Sea level, Death Valley. These entities do better at lower levels of the earth because you see their interdimensional stronghold is in the earth. Cain, you see, was cursed by God himself to be a fugitive and a vagabond with his ilk. In the earth, not on the earth, not above earth, but in the earth. Deep underground military bases, D-U-M-B, dumb bases, are real, folks. My question to my friend Saturday, and the question I will pose to him when he is on this show will be this question: Are there more than just Dulce, Mexico? Were there then and are there now? And if so, what's being done to stop their experimentation? Now, folks, you got to understand what's going on here. As we explained this, why this raid on Dulce is so incredibly important to get a handle on. We also got to go back to the Bible and the Bible's teachings. The reality is, just as our friend William, our caller and William in Michigan said so well, the answers are right there in the Holy Bible. They always have been. Just don't understand them. We, meaning the general public. There are a lot of people now that are understanding it, that are linking it up, that are connecting the dots, seeing the bigger picture. I'm learning as I go. I'm not by any means a Bible scholar. I don't read Hebrew or write Hebrew, but I know enough Hebrew words to be dangerous. But I think I've got a pretty good handle on it, folks. I really believe that it stems down to God's blessings or God's cursing. The blessing given to Father Abraham, simply that, again, you have dominion over all creations of the earth, on the earth. And he said that whosoever shall bless you and your seed, I shall bless. Whoever shall curse you, I shall curse them. Pretty powerful blessing, because he became basically the agent of God Almighty, the high priest class, if you will. You see, when sin, so-called, entered this perfect created world, sin entered the world. Sin is, again, the act, the willful act of, it's an epitome of the heart of evil, is called a sin. And that is simply, again, when sin entered the world, it means evil. It means evil. The devil, the adversary, became a resident and basically a sub-god, false god on this earth, and in the earth is his domain. Okay, now you understand where UFOs, the alien sort, originate from. Now, does that mean that there are not other alien UFOs observing this planet? Now, that's very clear, too, that there are many, many Earths, so to speak, other planets created by the same God, Yahweh. But you see, it's clear from many texts, ancient texts, that these planets are so much more advanced because, again, there's no sin, there's really no presence of the fallen ones there, that they really have long lives. Death can happen by basically by accident or by problem, but it's really no sickness, no decaying. Death is really not part of their culture. They have been allowed to observe what goes on here on this planet Earth. They have a federation of planets, I've been told. Indeed, they are here to observe and to keep people that are really trying to bring the truth out, basically give them some basic protections against these demonic interdimensional forces. And then again, they do this in the name and the authority of Jesus of Nazareth, and who is their Lord and their Master as well. They will not intercede and interfere except for one basic caveat. That is to keep the world from a nuclear holocaust. Because if that happens, if the Earth is, if the buttons are pushed and ICBMs start to go across the planet, if Israel, that little rogue state, starts to launch 300 of their ICBM destructors, see what'll happen is the influx the shock wave most definitely will extend into the vacuum of space-time and affect other universes and other planets in this galaxy as well. In the field of relativity, as put out by and postulated by Albert Einstein, this is very, very, very real. So you see, the story explained to me as a radio talk show host during the late 90s by a man named William Bill Cooper, who authored the book Behold a Pale Horse. He tells me the story, and he says he has this from his days in very high levels of clearance from naval intelligence. He tells me that after the dropping of the bombs in Japan, there was suddenly a lot of UFO activity out after that point. It seemed like something happened to kind of tear that dimensional veil between the dimensions. It seemed like there was just a lot more UFO activity worldwide. Not the least of which, according to Bill Cooper, was the Federation, as he called it, that had a meeting with President Truman, and then eventually all other heads of nations were informed, if not told, of the meeting. In essence, in a summation, the demand was given that they stop and destroy all nuclear experimentation, stop and destroy all stockpiles. And they said, we will intervene with our technology to stop, a major exchange of nuclear weapons between countries. They laid it all out. They offered Truman, according again to Bill Cooper, they offered Truman to share some very strong humanitarian technologies, the science, if you will, of energy medicine, of helping and repairing wounds and rapid regeneration of tissue, and such things as the cessation and cure for cancers. Just simple technology that would benefit all humanity in exchange for them abandoning the nuclear weapons escalation. Story by Bill Cooper was to me that Harry S. Truman, who again was a puppet of the Edomite Morgenthau and Harry Dexter White and others, Truman just a puppet, as was FDR, of these Edomite controllers. And Edomites are again those who have made a covenant with the fourth dimensional demons. Truman just basically said, well, thanks, we know about you, we've always known about you, but thanks, but no thanks. You see, we already have an agreement, a contract with the fourth dimensional aliens. Now, just think about that and chew on that, ladies and gentlemen, because that'll explain a whole lot about the problems this country and the world is facing right now. This world, and this country in particular, this so-called leader of the free world, is an agent of the god of the Edomites. And the god of the Edomites, again, is this individual, this interdimensional, powerful being called Satan. Folks, I'm sorry if this is hard for you to grasp. Many people, again, I can't tell you the vicious, hateful emails and threats I get on my blog and sent to me personally. Emails that probably could be means of a felony arrest. I mean, when you start threatening somebody's life, saying you're going to come and kill me, That's a felony, folks. But what is being said that makes these people so doggone angry? Well, the old axiom, you don't get flack if you're not a bomber ready to drop a load over a central target. And folks, I maintain I've been firing a lot of big howitzers in the last 6 months. Because the other emails that I get are just saying, this is incredible. Absolutely piecing together the pieces that I've needed to have. The Bible suddenly makes sense. Everything in it starts to be clear. You know what? Jesus of Nazareth is even more real. And of course, he better be, because he's a-coming. Judgment, folks, is on the way. When I get back from this break, we'll talk about exactly scriptural warnings concerning these poor Edomite people that have made a compact with hell. Literally, a compact agreement with hell. We'll be right back. Don't go away. This is the story behind the story. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the story behind the story. Right during the break, I was looking at my blog and seeing some questions on these boxes. That's good. I'm glad people are at least listening and looking at this. It's a mystery, and we can speculate all day as to what these are, but without a lid, if you will, or any way to open them, I don't think we ought to be playing around with them. I don't know. Indeed, folks. And I was sent a link, and if you go to my blog and just look at the entry Edomites for Dummies, what I call it. This is a great. Don't get me wrong. We have to start somewhere, and this website, truthseeker-archive at blogspot.com. Truth Seeker Archive. Well done. This post back in August 25th, 2010. The horrors, plural, of anti-Semitism. Well, that brings us to the top of the hour. We're going to do America in Jeopardy right now. We're going to give you, see how good your Bible scholarship is, folks. Here it is. He was the son of Noah, and through his righteous bloodline, the covenant of God would be established according to blessings by Noah. He is the original. His descendants are called the descendants of him by the name Semites. Thank you for that. Yeah, that's the answer. What is the question? Simply, what is or who was Shem? Shem, ladies and gentlemen. Do your research in the Bible. You find the Bible has an incredibly, to most people, to read that is very, very obnoxious, boring, because it gives you all the names, but genealogy, the lineage of these descendants. It tells you exactly where they come from and exactly where they sprung. Isn't it interesting, folks, that if you really read Genesis carefully, the book of Genesis in the Holy Bible, you see in the first part of Genesis the story of Adam and Eve and the creation. You also read about Cain, his problem with Abel. You know, what's amazing, if you really read Genesis, let me crack my Bible up here and try and find this real quick, the actual scripture. We see in chapter 2, of course, Adam is give the names of every person, every creature, every creation of God. And we see the serpent coming in and basically deceives Eve. The blessing there is that her seed, which basically the seed of Eve, the bloodline will bruise the serpent's head. That's a literal description of what will come later with the advent of the Messiah, Jesus Christ. Now, the children of man multiply. We have here in chapter 4, right? We have the history of Cain after he slew his brother Abel, that Cain said unto the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Chapter 4, verse 14, behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hidden. And I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. And it shall come to pass that every one that findeth me shall slay me. When we read in verse 15, and the Lord said unto him, therefore whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. The Lord set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. Again, what does it mean to be sevenfold? That, again, the blessing, if you want to call it that, I call it a cursing, is really basically that there would be immortality in a very evil state. So we see Cain going on and building posterity. The lineage of Cain was Irad, Enoch, Borarad, etc., etc. It goes on down the line till we get to Jabal, the father of such as dwell in tents and have cattle, and is Jabal and Jubal, and Lamech. Now, why is this important? What is this genealogy put into the Holy Bible, chapter 4? What was God's purpose in making sure this was set in stone and record, so to speak? Because simply we read that Adam knew his wife again in verse 25, and she bare a son and called his name Seth. For God, said she, hath appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. So this Seth would replace son Abel. Now we get to the generations of Adam in chapter 5. Very important. We read in verse 3, and Adam lived 130 years and begat a son in his own likeness after his image, and called his name Seth. And the days of Adam after he had begotten Seth were 800 years, and he begat sons and daughters. What we see in chapter 5 is the seed line of Adam. There is no Cain. There is no seed of Adam and Eve that shows Cain. Very important, because you see, Cain was not the son, Adam. Nowhere is he listed in his birthright. He lost his birthright of Adam. So Cain and his lineage became known as the Cainites or Kenites, fugitives and vagabonds in the earth. That means, ladies and gentlemen, there's tunnels and underground cities that are hiding from the sun. They hate the sun, sunlight. All right? So we see also chapter 6, these Nephilim, as they're called in extra biblical texts, these giants in the land, in the earth, in the earth in those days. Again, not on the earth, but in the earth. What were they doing? What was the wickedness of man that was great in the earth? Keep in mind, you gotta go back to the original Paleo-Hebrew texts on this subject to really get the full meaning. When we talk about earth, there's a Hebrew word that shows on the earth, upon the earth, living things that crawl on the earth. But then there's a whole nother text that refers to regions in the earth. We're talking about subterranean, let's say the core of the earth, which is molten metal, molten rock. This is the everlasting fire, folks. It's in the earth. Fugitives and vagabonds in the earth are basically condemned the same separation from God that Lucifer and the fallen angels had. You see, this serpent, this interdimensional creature, came and threw a monkey wrench in God's plan in the Garden of Eden. Sin entered the world, and again, Eve consumed it. There was a fallen state of separation from God. Law had been broken, justice must be served. And all the posterity of Adam and Eve made to partake of that. Death, you see, entered the picture because, you see, we couldn't live forever in this state of corruption with the dimensions of demons around us. So he shortened the days of our lives to roughly a jubilee of 49 years and a half of a jubilee, which is another roughly 23 and a half, 24 and a half. What's our lifespan, our average life expectancy today? Well, you got it. It's a jubilee and a half. Some live a little longer, some live a little less, but on the average, that's where we are. The point I'm getting to this history lesson, the Bible, folks, is we got to know, you have got to know who they are, who these manipulators behind the scenes are. They are not of the bloodline of Abraham. They are not the Semites. They are not the bloodline of Shem, the covenant promise of the blessing. They are not of the loins of Shem. They are not Shemites. They are not Semites. They are Kenite. They have lost the promise. You see, the Kenite bloodline intermarried with that of Esau, who had the birthright. He had the blessing, but sold it for a mess of red beans. Pretty simple Edomite story. The Edomite story. Is very much a part of understanding what's going on in this world today. Okay, well, Willie had William in Michigan earlier. He's wanting to call back in. I guess he has another comment. William, how are you?
I am good. You guys are subject about the Kenites, the descendants of Cain.
Uh-huh.
Hold on, sorry, I got a caller coming in my phone, but I don't understand how most churches get this so wrong. They think that the Canaanites are the descendants of Cain. And aren't they using their tools properly? Just like when you talk about when you get into the Masoretic text and things of this nature, the Kenites are descendants of Cain, which is the devil's kid, not Adam's kid. A lot of people teach Adam and Eve ate an apple. That's just a lie. I can't believe people don't do their homework. And I got 7 churches in Langsbury, and they all teach Adam and Eve ate from an apple. That's just a myth. It's a fable. It's a fairy tale. I don't understand how I read something different and millions of others read it different than they do. The Kenites are descendants of Cain. It shows they made it through the flood. These people take, sure, 8 Adamic souls, but if you read through the literature, 2 of every kind of every flesh. Flesh was mankind, so 2 of every race. People think that Adam and Eve are the first 2 people on the earth. That's just false lie as well. It says right in there, mankind, of its kind. Adam and Eve were created in the 2nd chapter. It's a totally different creation. It's a totally different man. It's Eth Ha-Hadam in the manuscript. How are people getting this way off the mark here? Is what I want to know.
Well, it's
just amazing how people, the intelligence level of some versus others. It's like, wow, aren't you guys using your tools and doing your homework?
Obviously not. William, we got to...
Obviously not. It says in the 1st chapter it's a 120 man, low degree. The 2nd chapter is a 376 man, high degree, men. There's 2 different creations here. I've seen people explain the Bible like they do evolution with Adam and Eve and how the race is pigmented over time. And so, what are you guys talking about? If it's not in the Word of God and you make it up, it's because you made it up. It's in the Word of God. What happened? They just aren't doing their homework.
Well, let me
go
on and let me explain, and thanks for your input again. Let me continue, okay?
Sure.
Okay, thanks, William. Appreciate it. Call again. Stay tuned and listen up. Yeah,
I am.
Folks, I wrote about this many times. Received a lot of flack from people. Just exactly what William's saying. A careful reading of Genesis in the original text shows there were multiple people here before. Adam is basically a title of a first man. There's other creations. Again, it's a multiplicity going on. Now, we've debated this many times. The flood was not completely covering all known earth. That's, again, a careful reading will show that. And secondly, again, we're talking about a race of beings that went in the earth. They lived inside the earth. They were not subject to the flood upon the earth. That's the second point you have to realize. That you see that the giants in the land at those days, the so-called, what people call Nephilim, what the Mormons may call Nephi, a man of great stature. These Nephilim, they dwelt in the earth. They dwelled in cave structures. Now, in Utah and in our neighboring state of Nevada, there's been a number of excavations in caves. The local Paiute Indian tribe have drawings, have hieroglyphics and petroglyphs showing the battles with these giants that came from in the earth. And yeah, right there at a specific cave, they had a great battle and killed many of them. And the archaeological references and evidence is very clear that that's what happened. You see, this is where we get the story of Goliath of Gath. Goliath of Gath, you see, was one of these giants in the earth. And every once in a while, some archaeological dig, whether it's in Turkey or somewhere in the Middle East, they'll come across these skeletal remains of massive giants, heads that are just bigger than a human being, skulls. And very little is ever said about this by the controlled world press, the Edomite-controlled presses. Again, when we talk about these things, and as William comes on, he's right on point, the thing we can't get too all worked up about, the answer I would give to William is the most important thing is not to argue about how many creations were, who really are the Kenites. We can explain that, but the most important thing, the whole central core of the whole Bible, is that an escape plan was given us. The escape hatch was offered us. That is Jesus of Nazareth. Now, what we have to focus on, William, others listening to the show who may be questioning, what you have to focus on is to get through all the lies that are generated by the Edomite church, the whore of Babylon, which very much tries to control public thought and opinion and, yes, change history. You have to break through their lies, and to do that, you've got to focus on the bloodlines of the Galileans, the bloodlines of Jesus of Nazareth. Who were the tribe of Judah, say, versus who are the tribe of the Edomites, the blending of the Kenite seed, the bloodline of Cain, with the bloodline of Esau. That's what you have to focus on, folks, because make no mistake, they are focused on us. You get that, folks? They are focused on our genetic destruction. The story of the Dulce, New Mexico war, the attack, the destruction of that base, is important not because it shows that there's secrecy in the government and there's these covert military actions right in our own backyard. That's part of the story, but the big part is what was going on there in Dulce. Why American military brass decided outside of President Carter and the influence of Henry Hines, Edomite elite Kissinger, to do this on their own. Because as they said, it's an absolutely an attack on humanity in general. And what you see is going on today is the same thing. And here it is in a nutshell, folks. Please understand this most important truth. God gave Adam and Eve, God gave his creation man, which is our posterity. He said, look, I have created this earth. I have created the oceans, the water, the birds, the flowers, the flora, the fauna. I've created all of these creatures, and Adam, you have named them. Now, behold, I give you dominion over these. And the word dominion simply means you have control. Jesus gave it the parable of the vineyard and the master. The master has given you reign of his vineyard. Now, where much is given, much is expected. You better take care of it. You better tend this garden. You make it blossom and you make it grow and make it a better place when I come back to visit, see. Christ understood because he was the master who owned the vineyard. So we have been given, we human beings have been given dominion over the animal DNA, the plant DNA. People ask me all the time as I talk about GMOs and this transhumanism issue, they said, well, Doctor, aren't you not so much vocal about genetically modifying dogs and kittens and crops, are you? I said, well, in reason. Monsanto has done the wrong thing. They're blending DNA of animals with that of the flora. That's where you start getting into the nasties, folks. When we're given dominion over the earth, we're given knowledge to, again, improve the vineyard. And if that means creating by, again, specific genetics in the field of, let's say, making a special breed of dog, you're not mixing the dog with that of an elephant. That's crossing the genetic firewalls. That is verboten. That's forbidden. But to improve what God has already put on there, again, for the benefit of humanity, for the benefit of those who have dominion, I see nothing spiritually or basically immoral about that whatsoever. It's helping. You're not taking over God, you're improving the vineyard. That's the moral argument. Now, one thing that is very clear throughout all the biblical texts, just like what was happening in the extra-biblical accounts of Sodom and Gomorrah, you see the demons were at work, the extra-dimensional UFOs were at work, mixing the seed of Adam with that of animals. There's been some misinterpretation of those ancient texts to say they were having sexual relations like man might have with a goat, if you get my drift. But no, it was much, much more than that as a perversion. They were bent on creating half-human chimeras of other animals. That is the sin unto death by God the Creator. He will not allow that to happen. He never allowed it to happen earlier. When it did start happening, when the sons of God came in and started mixing the seeds wrongfully with the daughters of Eve, God sent the flood to start over again. Folks, that's the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, what really happened there? You know, God has to apply physical laws. Quantum physics is at work there. Something indeed happened in those cities. They've archaeologically, again, dug down into the stratum of that day and time, that age, and found quite a large foot deep, sometimes 2 foot deep, layer of black ash. That whole region was wasted. And folks, studying that ash shows some amazing things. There's a problem with nuking something. You see, there's a half-life of that fallout that still remains there thousands of years later. And that's exactly what they found in the ash of this time frame. There's radioactivity there. The Geiger counters they go off. Now, I don't mean to tell you, that is happening again right now as we see. The Edomite agenda is simply this, that, again, that's what caused Lucifer to rebel in the first place. In the first estate, Lucifer, which again is now known as Satan, led a rebellion. He says, we gods become greater even than God himself. And Isaiah, the prophet, said this in so many words, can the clay itself become greater than the potter? See, this is the sin unto death, that the created creature, the potter, is not going to allow the clay to become greater than the potter, to supplant him. It's not going to happen. So what is happening now in technology, these Edomite flying bats from Hades have flat out decided that they can, again, through technology, through nanobots and nanotechnology, actually replace the blood DNA of humans. Oh yeah, they said we'll have no death, we'll have no sickness, we'll have no cancer. But you see, because you replace the blood, you have no soul. You are just nothing but a machine. Folks, the Creator will not, I repeat, not let that happen. Judgment is coming. That's all I can say about it. It's just very, very strong. We're taking a break. Right after these messages, we'll come back and go on again. Fill in the blanks with Edomites 101. Edomites for Dummies, as I call it. Don't go away. This is the story behind the story. We'll be right back. And we're back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the story behind the story. Let's, again, I just got to keep hammering this. A lot of people do email me. A lot of people do subscribe to my blog, and they constantly keep asking. Well, I talked to my pastor, and he says he doesn't agree with you that Jews are really, the Jews of the Bible are really the Israelites. Okay, let me start from the beginning. Have you read Righteous Blood Part 1? Well, that's kind of hard and kind of long. It's kind of hard for me to read it all. Are you kidding me? I had to really bite my tongue. And are they that stupid they can't read at a 5th grade level? They need to kind of have it be as a picture book and a 2nd grade primer? Maybe they do. I don't know. I mean, how much plainer can you get than my first part of Righteous Blood Part 1? If they can't get Righteous Blood Part 1, how in the world are they ever going to get Part 9? Oh my goodness. Maybe these are just Goyim. Maybe these are just plain stupid cattle. Maybe their brains have been calcified so much they just really can't think anymore. I hate to believe that. But I can't believe, just all of these. My pastor says, or my friend in the Bible study says, that's Ku Klux Klan, white supremacy, garbage, not true. Yeah. Okay, folks, let's start from the beginning. Here is Edomite 101 for Dummies. Very simple. Let me see if you can follow this through. The original Bible texts talk about, again, at the time of Jesus in the land of Judea, 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 there were a group of Idumeans, Idumeans, who were the majority rulers. The Idumeans in the original text and the Judeans, the Idumeans were members of Judea, just like African Americans are members of the American class. They are Americans, but they are African as well. They are of a specific tribe. The Idumeans were the majority of the Pharisees, the vast majority, some estimates over 92% of the ruling class of the Pharisees. King Herod, the king of the Judeans, was also an Idumean. Folks, Idumeans in the Greek text. So whoever was doing the translation just looked at the Idumeans and the Judea. See, back then there was no hard J. Judea, Idumeans, they just, again, it's one problem with the translators. They just, again, this is late. This is the 1700 translations, the year 1700. They just simply substituted the word Jews. To figure out who they're talking about, you got to go back to the original Greek, and better yet, the original Hebrew, to figure this out. It is very clear. Then it becomes very, very clear that Jesus of Nazareth was a Galilean. The tribe of Galilee was the tribe of Judah. He was a Judahite. He was not an Idumean. Now, who did these translations? Oh, surprise, surprise, surprise. The Roman Catholic Edomites. They wanted to use this. They wanted to be blurred very much so. They wanted to lump Jesus of Nazareth into the same pot as the Idumeans. What a sinister agenda. Jesus of Nazareth was of the tribe of Israel. The Idumeans were of Esau, which is Edom. It's like saying Abel is Cain. Like saying Seth is Cain. It's not. Absolutely not the same. If you understand that, suddenly you see that these imposters that have lined up the last 100 years, calling themselves Jews, it's a big lie. They are Khazars. 98% of them are the pure bloodline of Edom, tracing back to the Khazarian kingdom. They have no business calling themselves Israel. Absolutely. King Herod, see, was Edomite. And what did King Herod do, this Edomite? Oh, he wanted to slay all of the baby boys in all of Judea. Wrong answer. Said yes. Careful reading of the gospel say no. He focused it on the Galilean minorities. He had the census. He knew where the families were, the bloodlines. But you see, it's like today going out and knowing that there's this special boy being born in the Islamic people, okay, the Islamic neighborhoods. So you target the Islamic minority and go and kill their firstborn. That's basically what happened. He didn't make it a blanket thing for all of Judea. No. Recently, I subscribed to National Geographic, and there was a story on King Herod that they had actually found his tomb. They had identified this was King Herod. Yes, the same King Herod referred to in the Bible. But you see, the National Geographic boys are Edomites. They believe in evolution. They promote evolution. So yeah, this is a great little story. They have all these pictures of King Herod, but they made it clear that the interpretation, the writing of the Hebrew text that was there in the tomb, there's no record whatsoever that he ever killed any boys. It's another just saying the Bible is just another problem. Here's science showing that King Herod was really this benevolent good guy. Surprise, 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 surprise. Because of that article, primarily, I wrote a nasty little letter to National Geographic saying, take your magazine and burn it as far as I'm concerned, but don't send me any more issues. Folks, there are lies, and then there are damned lies. The biggest lie of all is that Jesus Christ was a Jew. The modern day interpretation of a Jew. Boy, that is a huge lie. If you study deeply enough and go into the Jewish Encyclopedia, the 1925 edition, Volume 5, page 41 says, and I quote, Edom is modern Jewry. Jewry, folks, not jewelry. Jewry. It's modern people that call themselves Jews, that they are Edomite. To say that then that Jesus of Nazareth The modern terminology of a Jew is saying that Jesus was an Edomite. And folks, if Jesus of Nazareth was an Edomite, then there is no covenant of a Messiah. He was nothing. See, either Jesus Christ is all, or he's nothing. Either he's of the bloodline of Israel through Judah, the promised blessings put upon the seed of Abraham, or he's nothing. So when the Jews today, the rabbis said, oh, Jesus was one of us, was a Jew, saying basically he's an Edomite who is not just nothing. And that's, of course, exactly what their most holy book, the Babylonian Talmud, teaches. That Jesus Christ is a sorcerer, a magician, a practitioner of the black arts who was hung on Passover Day because he did such evil things, such blasphemy. He was beyond nothing to the Babylonian Talmud. He was lower than swine. It's a very nice way of saying what's in the much more graphic terms in the Babylonian Talmud. He, Jesus of Nazareth, was a resident of Judea, but he was indeed a Galilean. Matthew chapter 26, verse 69, John 7:41, it lays this out very importantly. He's a resident of Galilee. His bloodline was of Judah, absolutely descendant of the tribe of Judah. And again, the majority of the people in Judea, the ruling class, the priests of the Pharisees and the scribes were Judah, were Iudeans, were not Judah. Idumea is Edom. Edom, headquarters of the Mount Seir. It's the descendants of Esau who were cursed. Now, as to those people that last 2 weeks have labeled me an anti-Semite, a dangerous hate monger, and have told me to go out and kill myself before somebody else comes to my door and kills me, I have this to say. You claim to be Christian, get on your knees, pray for forgiveness for what you've written, and then secondly, turn your Bible, you know that piece of leather with pages? Turn to Matthew chapter 23. If you call me an anti-Semite, you better do the same for the person you claim to follow. Just give lip service, but your heart is far from him. Jesus, you said, condemned the Jews specifically. Again, what is determined as Jews? Are they of the tribe of Judah? No. Don't. This is where you gotta not be confused. The Idumeans, which were also listed as Jews wrongfully, the Idumeans, the Jews of his day, he called them the literal, quote, children of the devil. Children of their father, the devil. I mean, boy, that's pretty strong words. These so-called Jews, he called them full of hypocrisy and iniquity. And I quote, called them children of hell. Here's the exact quotation in John chapter 8, verse 44. Quote, ye are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father will do. He was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth. Why? Because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. So we talk about evil, folks. We talked about that in the first hour, and the definition of evil is the absence of God. Let me give you another definition of evil here based on this scripture. The definition is this: simply the truth is not in the evil person. Because you see, God in the flesh, Emmanuel, Jesus of Nazareth, said it best, didn't he? He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. If there is no truth in the devil, there is no light of Christ, there is no God in him. It's a very definition of and the epitome of evil. Evil then is the lack of truth, the liar. So if you lie and bear false witness, folks, that is evil. Matthew 23, verse 33, ye serpents, ye generation of vipers, how can ye escape the damnation of hell? That is pretty doggone straightforward. There's no mincing of words there. Excuse me, you call me an anti-Semite because I show there of the blood of Edom? Like, this is how backwards Christian teachers are. These pastors. You go to your fancy church, whether it's Baptist or Episcopal or Methodist, go to your fancy Sunday church, you sit around and you listen to all of this prophecy concerning Israel, the state of Israel, and just, again, the seminaries hammer this into their pastors. You have to graduate from the seminary, which is all, again, hammering this bam, 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 this propaganda lie. And folks, when you hear the lie often enough and strongly enough, before long you begin to embrace the lie and don't even question it anymore. What is called the Stockholm Syndrome, folks? The liar, the serpent, understands human nature. So when you start talking about the truth of the Bible, hear me, the truth is in the name of Jesus Christ, who is the truth. Oh yes, it causes the demons to wail. Good Christians come up and become very angry. I actually had a Christian. This blew my mind. He emails me and really castigates, takes me to task for attacking another fellowship Christian group, the Mormon Church. I was flabbergasted. Holy mackerel. It's the whole so-called ecumenical movement. We're all the same. We need to all gather together and support Israel, all Christianity. Mormons really support Israel, so they're Christian brothers. Oh my goodness, they are supporting Edom. The wolf has donned the sheep's clothing and is just tearing the sheep apart. The Strong's Concordance. I've had this debate for over the last 7 and 8 years. I did a PowerPoint presentation tracing the Kenites. And I quote Strong's Concordance. What it finally came down to the discussion was, well, you can't trust the Strong's Concordance. It's just their opinion. What? Have you read Strong's Concordance? Have you seen the maps? Have you seen the genealogies? Have you seen the original text analyzed? Are you kidding me? You see, Strong's Concordance tells you a whole lot about the Kenites. Their working of the earth, inside the earth, in caves and in mines and mine shafts. The Kenites, you see, became goldsmiths and artificers in gold and silver, jewels and rubies. They became the jewelers. And he who has the gold in the Edomite world makes the rule. That is their golden rule. That's the golden rule of Mammon. It's not the golden rule of Jesus Christ, which is simply, you've heard it, you know it, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The Edomite golden rule is simply do unto others and then split before they do it to you. And he who has the gold makes the rules. That's the golden rule with them. And they take the gold and precious metals and make man lust after it. The Mammon demon makes them lust with greed for that shine of gold. Yet it's a cold, hard metal with no value but what the god of Mammon places on it, the demon of Mammon. I call, my Christian critic said, I'm going to quit listening to you if you keep attacking the Mormons. What, are you Mormon? Oh, but my good friends are Mormon. They're very upset that I'm listening to you because you're such an anti-Mormon. They say you're just a rabid anti-Mormon with an ex-Mormon. So, well, you're right on one thing. I am an ex-Mormon, but my only axe to grind is to sharpen the sword of truth. I'm sharpening the sword of truth every day. And you can't handle the truth, well, so what? It's your problem, not mine. They take offense. They're really angered when I call the LDS Church of Mammon instead of the Mormon Church. I call it Mammonism, not Mormonism. And I think it's absolutely the shoe fits. You see, Mammon, you really study the the history of the name Mammon and really the entity, the demonic presence that he is and represents, and how he is tied to gold. Doesn't anyone wonder why the Book of Mammon came from golden plates? Hello. The very Book of Mammon itself, in the pages of the Book of Mammon, says this comes as a familial spirit, a familiar spirit from the dust. Hello, good Mammon followers of Mammonism. Better learn what familiar spirit is all about. We've been talking about familiar spirits, you see, since the first part of the show. It's the alien demonic host, ladies and gentlemen. That's what a familial is. A familial means it is there interdimensionally to access your familial DNA. It knows everything about you, this demon entity. It knows your genetic makeup. It has been allowed to read that. See, there is enmity, God said, between the seed of man and the serpent. What is enmity, folks? Enmity just means the state of perpetual conflict. A battle, folks. There was a very, very strong and marked line of separation between the seed of Lucifer and the seed of the woman, the serpent seed and the seed, the genetic code of the blood of the created being called man. You might have power to bruise the man's heel, but he has power to crush your head. Well, folks, that's what we're talking about here. Learn the difference, please. Understand who Edom and Esau is. The Kenites are all part of that interblood mixing. The Kenite wives that Esau took, the polygamous wives, created this Babylonian empire of Nimrod then and today still is on the earth. That's the story behind the story. I'll be back tomorrow. I'll let you know exactly when. We'll have my guest telling you all about the firefight at El Seno, Mexico. Don't go away. Be well. Till then, be safe. I'll do the same. God bless.